Are neryomaki. Low downward block. 1. Assume Kibon Junbi Jase and take one step forward into Apkubi. 2. The blocking wrist is lifted to the level of the opposite shoulder, and the base part of its fist faces the opposite side of the face. The blocking arm travels across the trunk toward the thigh of the front leg. The base part of the blocking fist is now facing the thigh of the front leg. The gap between the blocking fist and the thigh is to be about the width of two vertically erected fists. 3. The other wrist is extended to the level of the solar plexus in a turned-down state, travels across the blocking wrist simultaneously, and rests on the side of the waist in the form of a turned-over fist. Momtong Maki or Anmaki. Trunk block or inward block with the outside edge of the wrist. 1. Assume Kibon Junbi Jase and take one step forward into Apkubi. 2. Place the blocking arm outside the defender's body at the height of the shoulder, while the other arm is extended to the level of the solar plexus in front of the body. 3. The outside edge of the wrist of the blocking arm travels to the center of the body, and its fist is kept as high as the shoulder. Simultaneously, the wrist of the other hand rests on the side of the waist with its fist turned over. 4. The inner angle of the elbow of the blocking hand is somewhere between 80 and 120 degrees, and the wrist should not be bent in any direction. Olgul Olyamaki. Face upward block. 1. Assume Kibon Junbi Jase. Take one step forward into Apkubi. 2. Place the turned-over fist of the blocking arm slightly lower than the elbow of the other arm, while the other arm is lifted to the level of the shoulder of the blocking arm. The lifted fist is turned over to face the opposite side of the face. 3. Bring the wrist of the blocking arm to the center of the face above the head, while resting the other wrist on the side of the waist. The gap between the blocking wrist and the forehead should be the width of one vertically erected fist. Pakatmaki. Outward block, with the outside edge of the wrist. 1. Assume Kibon Junbi Jase. With one foot fixed in place, take one step forward with the other foot into Apkubi by bending both knees and shifting the center of gravity to the rear leg and loading 2/3 of your weight onto the supporting leg. The upper body should be in an upright position, and the inner angle of the rear foot 90 degrees wide open from the center of the body. 2. Place the turned-over fist of the blocking arm slightly lower than the elbow of the other arm, while the top of the other fist is raised slightly below the shoulder of the blocking arm. The gap between the two arms should be the width of one fist. 3. Raise the blocking wrist to be parallel with the shoulder line of the blocking arm. At the same time, the other wrist travels across the blocking wrist and rests on the side of the waist. The top of the blocking fist now faces the body, while the other fist at the side of the waist is turned over facing upward. Sonnal Kodro Pakatmaki. Hand blade assisting outward block. 1. Assume Kibon Junbi Jase and take one step forward into Dwitkubi. 2. The palm of the blocking hand faces upward and is raised to the level of the opposite shoulder. The palm of the supporting arm faces backward and is extended sideways behind the defender's body, with the elbow kept open at an angle of 90 to 120 degrees. The fingertips of the supporting hand are lifted shoulder high. 3. When both hands travel across the chest toward the front, the blocking hand passes the level of the defender's nose in a circular motion, while the wrist of the supporting hand is placed in front of the solar plexus. 4. The fingertips of the blocking hand stay at the same height as its shoulder with the palm facing forward and its wrist unbent. The palm of the supporting hand faces upward, while the distance between the supporting hand and the solar plexus should be about an inch apart.